Hey everyone, it's me, Pastor and Bogat. And today I just thought that in this vlog, I'm just going to talk random stuff on what happened throughout this course of the 5 months that, in this wonderful year of 2020, what's been going on. And a lot has been going on. You probably remember, as a recap in my earlier videos, that I've spoke a lot about, you know, how I lost my job way before quarantine and how Satan entered within my body and told me that he's only allowing this situation to take place because he's the causality of it. Yeah, that's right. Satan was the causality of losing my job in order for me to be where I'm at right now. And that's, of course, still without a job. It's a alchemic process. It's like death itself. People like myself who are interested in the dead do necromancy. We're not afraid of change. We're not afraid of death because death within itself is a rebirth. It's something that should be embraced. It's like the visions I get within my mind. I see my greatest fear, like that of a spider. It's huge things opening up, trying to eat me whole. It's like I just open up my arms, and I'm just waiting to be embraced of this impending doom. Because at that particular moment, which would frighten a lot of people, it's not really frightening me. It's more like I'm in a state of nirvana, to exaggerate that situation, because it really is nirvana for me, because I know what death is. You know, to actually die, to know what death is, you're really embracing life and you want to live. I know that sounds very ironic, but it's very true because it's an alchemic process, and the beginning of this year was exactly that. That's why I mentioned in one of my videos that when an individual does magic, something in your life is going to change. And this is 5 years in the making of this, this spell that I'm doing, and Satan is only doing his part, and I thought it was really good. And the time is really now to really speak about it once again, only because that we're under quarantine and I'm looking at, the situation for what it is, not for what it's not. Because the situation is, though it's monotonous, it could be very boring, but I know that death needs to take its course. And it happened. I think of the dreams that I've been having lately, and they've been demonic inspired, especially waking up very early in the morning, around 3 to 4 a.m. in the morning. I kid you not, I just woke up. I had all the energy in the world, and I had to do what I'm doing now. But instead of like being on camera, I remembered those dreams and I remembered the experience that really pushed me to do what I'm doing right now. And the dream that I had was very interesting. It was alarming for a quick second. And being the fact that I'm used to these dreams and I could interpret them for you, but let me first explain what happened. I was sitting on a bench. The bench itself was a blue bench, and these hordes, these swarms of insects that at first gave me a bit of alarm because they appeared to be spiders, but the dream is making very clear that it wasn't spiders. Only because that when I was alarmed, I wasn't forcing myself to change the image of these particular dream or the message, even though I could do that at will. But like I've learned many times when it comes to demonic inspired dreams, I just let go and I let it take its course and let Satan or the demons give me that message that they want to give so that I could grow from it and learn something from it. So looking closer at this particular dream, the horde of insects were not spiders. Hence, I said that's why I was a little alarmed by it. But what ended up happening was that I looked at it to only realize that it was ants. Hundreds of ants. Some of them were like big fat caterpillars or even centipedes even. I'm throwing centipedes in there just because they kind of look identical to a caterpillar, even though a caterpillar looks, it has this distinctive look from a centipede. But I'm definitely going to look at some information about what they look like in a, I guess, in a spiritual person's eyes that interpret dreams, or either what the Native Americans may interpret them, Tibetans, so that I could get a fuller understanding of what the dream means to me. But as I interpret it on my own, I can't fully say spiders because they weren't spiders. I mean, guys, I'm telling you, my dream itself, it took these horde of ants and put them close to me. So in other words, though I was shocked for like just a quick half a second, like, oh wow, because it was just coming out of the bench. I was just like, whoa, and then it was just ants, and like I said, a fat caterpillar, and I just felt as if like it was really trying to tell me something. And then that sequence passed away, and then the next sequence was quite interesting. What I mean by that was that I'm looking at myself in the third person, and the terrain was real weird. Like, what I mean by it is that it was trying to level itself out. So in other words, the street itself was uneven, and then it leveled itself out, and then it was a continuous effect along the street itself, and then everything was just, it looked very smooth, as if I'm able to walk on that sidewalk or that street. Pedestrians could mosey on by, if I have to use that word. But the point that I'm trying to make when it comes to those two situations is that when I interpret the dream, it seems to me that the dream is trying to help me to appreciate that something is going to be alarming. Not death itself in a way where it will inspire like tremendous amount of fear, but it's going to be alarming, either it be a wake-up call or something that I need to pay attention to. And then there's going to be a leveling out of sorts, meaning there's going to be something in my life that's going to look as if that it is uneven, and then it's going to make sense after a while, and then I'll be able to use that newfound knowledge to help myself out a lot more than what I'm currently experiencing. Now, that dream is prophetic only because that whatever that situation is, it has not occurred just yet. And by the way, I had this dream about maybe 2 days ago. I just figured I would have to calm myself down before I even tell this dream, only because that when I thought about the dream at first, emotionally I was having anxiety attacks outside of the dream, meaning like the dream didn't inspire these anxiety attacks. I usually just have them every now and then I just end up taking some time to myself to level myself out emotionally so that I could come correct. You know what I mean? It's like I don't like making videos that I don't feel like I'm at my best, or something within that realm of thinking, because I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want someone to give me a half-hearted video, or they're just half-assing the whole entire time as they make a video, because I want to learn something and I care about what this individual has to say. and I'm pretty sure you care about what I have to say. So that's why I took a day or two before I get on camera, and then I go ahead and then I could, you know, make this video. And another thing that has been going on due to synchronicities, whatever Satan is approving of, I don't know what it is just yet, but I see that word a lot, along with victory. Victory has been coming up. It's been going on just as much as I've been breathing air. Let's just put it that way. I'm kid you not. The music I hear, the movies I watch, it's everywhere. It's on everywhere. Billboards, you name it. I mean, granted, if you want to logically bring this out, it's like, of course, the person would say, well, you know, the brain, you know, we're creatures of just looking at patterns and trying to make meaning out of it. And okay, cool, I get that. But being on the left hand path, it speaks volumes more than what the atheist or skeptic would say. But I look at it and I definitely want to learn from it. And whatever is happening is going to be a change that Satan approves of, and I'm gonna have success in it. I've done some tarot because I love doing my tarot, and I got some very interesting cards that really point in that direction. Where if I could discuss just a little about what the tarot meant when I did the reading. So the tarot meant that good news is coming its way. And it's actually really, really good news. But at the same time, I need to be patient as the good news actually takes place. In fact, I'm going to show a tarot card so you know exactly what the reading was enterprise of. So it's not coming, you know, off my head, or I have to guess a lot. So let me just get those cards. All right, so I got the cards, and the first card that I got was the Strength card. And the Strength card is really good because this Strength card helps me to appreciate that a lot of the time that when I deal with my anxiety, when I think of what I go through, I really do need that inner strength. It's like the Strength card is kind of similar to a Chariot, even though the Chariot is more like willpower. This is more like inner strength, and this inner strength within me, I have to have the resolve that I need to get through a certain situation that would really call for a lot of mental and, you know, just inner strength. And that makes a lot of sense for me because I go through a lot, just like everyone does. You know, it's nothing unique. It's nothing that's out of the ordinary that could really make me more better or less than another individual. But it takes a lot of strength to really go through the stuff that we go through. And it's not easy because either we allow the problem or the obstacles to basically overrun our lives. We could do so, but we could do the opposite as well. And that's to use that sheer inner strength to bulldoze those obstacles to get to where we need to be. Now, the next card that I'm going to mention is a minor arcana, and that's of the Eight of Swords. Now, the Eight of Swords is actually very interesting because, yeah, it does alarm a lot of people, and it does make people feel very uneasy when they talk about the Eight of Swords, because that pretty much means that whatever is going to happen to you, well, it's bad for a reason. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, if you look at the Eight of Swords, it's there to remind you that the obstacles that surround you, the predicament that you're in, you need to be aware of it. You need to understand that predicament, because the more you understand that predicament or the problem that you have or potentially have, well, you could avoid it or lessen the blow. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, if you know that your girlfriend's cheating on you and you comprehend why she's doing that way, it's like you won't be as judgmental, you won't be depressed about it, and you could understand it as far as perhaps that you had a lot to do with the issue that's at hand, and that's why this is coming back at you. And that's what's going on too within my own personal life. So the Eight of Swords, it's definitely a card that, like I said, it's negative, but you can still work around it, like I have, because sometimes I feel like my life is not fulfilled. You know what I mean? Because it, we all fall through the whole idea of that alchemical process, like I said, death and rebirth, because I don't see the results of my manifestation, so therefore I think negatively. I may feel trapped that it's not going to work out, but then I come back into myself and then I say, no, that's just my negative thoughts because I have not fully embraced the very idea that things need to take time in order for it to be fulfilled. Because if your goal or the manifestation, whatever it is not fully formed yet, then you want it to be perfect. So, in other words, you want to receive it when it's divine intervention. So, in other words, when Satan and the demons know that it is time for me to have it, then that would be the time for me to have it, not when I want it to. And that's why I look at this card and I go, it could definitely be what happened, to me on occasion. So, which means in the presence, I go through the up and down like most people. So you could always interpret that way, or something that's going to happen in the future, and I could still feel quite bothered by the events, and I have to work myself through it, which is not an impossibility. And that's why the good thing about the minor arcanas is that they give us a partial reading to the entire reading, if that makes sense. Because you have the major arcanas, like I just mentioned, one of the major arcana, the strength card, and I just mentioned the Eight of Swords, and now it's the Ace of Swords. Now, the Ace of Swords is actually a good card because it means breakthroughs, it means success. You remember I said that there's victory, something that I'm going to succeed in? Well, that's what this card is pertaining to. And this is something that's so important because when we think about breakthroughs, we think about success. I try to think of myself in the here and now. So thinking about the present. Am I successful now? Have I received my manifestation now? Obviously, the answer is no. So it must be pertaining to the future. So when I look at this, I know that I could say I have something to hope for, which also not so much negates the Eight of Swords, but it helps me to appreciate just like the whole idea of death. When things come to an end, there's a new beginning. So when you go through negative thoughts, at the end of that tunnel, there's a light. And that's what the Ace of Swords reminds me of when I think about my present situation going forward. You see, and that's something that I definitely would like to say, that if anyone else feels that their situation is so dire that it will never change, well then think again. Good things do happen. It's just that you just have to wait for it. Now, another thing that I thought was really nice was this card. And this is the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is also another good card because here, this one helps me to appreciate that there's new ways of communication and it's new ideas. And whatever these new ideas are, it's going to inspire me to do more, to do better. And these couple of days, I've been having these really good ideas as far as doing necromancy and learning more about Philema and other things that could empower me as a magician, as a black magician, so that I could better myself and as a whole. Because it's like I just started to really know that in the world view of how I'm able to see the quarantine, the whole COVID-19, it could work to our benefit, especially as black magicians. It doesn't have to be something that is so dire and so evil that we have to just fully see it that way. So I had to pick up my dog for a second. He was biting something. But when we look at the event that we're in right now, we really shouldn't feel bad about it. We should really feel good because we're all in this together as a human family. And as black magicians, we want to use that energy on just trying to transfer it within ourselves so that we could use it to benefit ourselves, if that makes sense. Because think about it, it's not the end just because of a virus. Think back when I spoke about how we're able to view the idea of death. Think of Santa Morte. You know what I mean? Loki, the other deities of the dead. They're not as evil and as baneful as we bring them out to be. We just have to sit there and we have to actually see with our own two eyes and through our experiences that we could work through it like everything else in our life. Now I'm gonna move on to my next card here. Let me see. This one is the Two of Cups. The Two of Cups is a very good card because when I think about this particular card, it helps me to appreciate relationships. And again, communication. This is really good because when I see myself communicating, especially with you guys, amongst other people within my life, it does keep me uplifted. It keeps me happy because with someone who goes through anxiety problems like I do, communication is key because I think of how we're social creatures, and being social creatures, we really need a healthy dose of communication. Even though right now we are practicing what is it, social distancing and things of that nature, but a phone call, a text message, or even doing what I'm doing right now as on YouTube is a good thing because I'm able to communicate with you and we're able to vibe off of each other despite our mental, physical restrictions, where communication is key. And that helps me to appreciate too that when I had that dream, that's Satan and the demons communicating with me, saying that everything is okay. That's really the premise of me talking about these cards. My dream is that everything is going to be okay. You may be a little shaken up, but hey, look, I'm here to communicate with you. There's that word again, communicate with you, because of our relationship between myself and Satan. Things are going to be just fine. Now, the Three of Cups. The Three of Cups is good because it helps me to appreciate that when we are in union with one another, an event is going to take place. And that's what the Three of Cups really do signify. A very beautiful event, something monumental is going to happen within my particular life. It has not happened yet, so it has to be in the near future. I can only think about my manifestation that I've been talking about, not in an obsessive manner, but in a way where I'm definitely still aware of it. Hence, I got the King of Pentacles. The King of Pentacles helped me to appreciate that manifestation. It's one of my favorite cards of the deck because it helps me to appreciate that in a person that is harmonious within myself or within yourself as well. I'm someone who, I won't say I'm frugal, but I spend my money wisely. Being mature, being responsible, and being looked at as that king, that's something that we all are. We should see ourselves as that. It's like when I look at my younger self, I see the Page, I see the Knight. They're really good cards, but they're not the king. And the king is someone who was that Knight or that Page, but they matured. Remember, tarot card, it tells an overall story. And being the fact that this is my favorite card, and that's from Satan himself, saying that this represents who I am, it brings nothing but joy to my heart because I get this card almost all the time. Every time I do a reading, it always comes up. And that's a very possible future that I have to look forward to as far as my communication. Now, I get the High Priestess card, because when you actually connect to the feminine, right, and you're empowered by it, it makes you more intuitive. And it helps me to see that though a male being intuitive, that side is very, very important, because being logical all the time is does not mean that you're going to receive all the answers. And I say that because sometimes you have to feel out the answer. You have to look within yourself, and you really have to search for answers in that way. Hence, I do tarot reading, where it's about the spirituality. You need to be very intuitive in order to do that. That's why this card helps me to see that I have to not leave this behind or forget about my intuitive side, or that feminine side, if you will, and focus on it. And there lies the solution to the answer. Hence, when I think about my anxiety attacks, when I think about how I don't want to, just move on in life, and whatever it may be, I can sit there and be logical all I want, but I've realized that sometimes I can only go so far with it. So I have to look within, do some self-care, love myself, move forward, and I get myself that answer. And again, here's another major arcana, and it's the Lovers. Now, of course, I'm not with anyone right now, so it's not telling me that whoever my girlfriend is, it's about her or not. It can be, but as I feel this particular card, it helps me to see something a lot more different. Like, for example, I think a lot about me and Satan and my 5 other Patreons, and how I need to be in a close proximity with them and listen to what they have to say. Though I have to learn through pain sometimes with them, but it's because they really want me to pay attention and to learn something. It's not because they just want to be an asshole. It's because they want to teach me something. So this Lover's Arcana tells me for the second time, be communicative with my partner, and that's Satan and the rest of my patrons. And I'm going to do exactly that. The last one is the Hierophant. This is good because this card helps me to see that, and this is me collecting my thoughts, so I sound intelligent when I speak. But the Hierophant is good because it helps me to see that what I do now as a spiritual person, it helps me to see that I have to stick with tradition. I may not want to go outside of what tradition holds for me, but being closer to the book or sticking to a set of rules, it does help out. So tradition does help when it needs to. And that helps me to see that what I'm doing is okay, because as they say, if you go by the book, you can't really do wrong. And I'm doing that in a spiritual sense, where I'm going to stick to my intuitive side. Of course, be objective, be pragmatic, and I have to give myself a lot of leeway. So in other words, don't be too hard on myself. Know that problems do come in many forms, and I have to be receptive so that I can receive them. And that's why when I communicated with Satan, he helped me to appreciate that I have much to be thankful for. Just like you friends have much to be thankful for. Don't forget that. And the reason why I say that is because there's going to be times when you're going to feel trapped. You're going to feel alone. Especially when you're in home, like the rest of the world, like myself as well included, that it's going to be difficult to reach out to someone or something when, in fact, we're in our home 24/7. We have an idle mind. Hopefully we use this idle time in doing stuff that are constructive and spiritual, so that we're not completely doing anything. That's why I make these videos, so that I can give Satan his publicity, the demons as well, because it just benefits them, and it's to Satan's glory. So I love you all. Thank you for joining this channel and listening. Please like it and also subscribe. Okay, I love you all, and I see you all next time. Bye.